Namaskar. In session 28, we will be discussing on World Trade Organization. Here you have to discuss how the World Trade Organization has helped in developing the world economy, what are the issues are there in World Trade Organization, how a developing country, a developed country they negotiate for the world trade, and what are the challenges are there at present with the World Trade Organization. Before discussing about World Trade Organization, we should understand that prior to World Trade Organization, the body of World Trade Organization, that was a body called General Agreement on Trade and Tariff and Trade, GATT, association among developed and developing country, established in 1948 for the growth and expansion of world trade, for the smooth progress of the world trade. As you know, after 1945 Second World War, many developing countries got their independence and they tried to develop their own economy by practicing what is called a protected economy system. It is not only developing country, many developed country also adopted the policy of protectionism, and with the prime requirement they thought for to develop their old domestic economy. This protectionism led to decline in world trade, leads to what is called a misallocation of resources in the world economy, and for the progress of the world economy, for the progress of the smooth flow of world trade, the GATT was established in 1948. Over the period of negotiations, the GATT established or developed what is called world trade. However, early 90s it is realized that the world requirement of GATT is not fruitful for the present day economy. The world trade had migrated from the mineral resources trade to trade in services, trade in intellectual property, trade in agriculture, trade in what is called factor of production including the labor forces, trade in there is requirement for trade in investment purpose also. So, these are the new dimension has come to be discussed in the world trade, and the old GATT format is not possible to discuss this new requirements. And in 92 the Uruguay round of negotiation of world trade, there was a discussion to abolish the GATT and establish what is called a World Trade Organization. And the basic requirements of World Trade Organization, they define it. What are the new process should be included in the negotiation of world trade system? What are the new dimensions required for to be discussed in the world trade? What are the new system procedures to be designed to resolve the conflict among countries? These are the things they discussed in world trade and established the World Trade Organization, where all many developing country and developed country were member of the World Trade Organization at present. Let us discuss about the requirement, challenges of World Trade Organization and how a developing country have got some kind of benefit out of the establishment of the world trade system. Let us move to the World Trade Organization. The background, as I mentioned here, the build on the GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff and Trade, which was established in 1948. On the basis on this, the World Trade Organization established, WTO established in 1995. There are 151 members country, secretariat is in Geneva, member driven organization, cooperation among states and governments. Their members are established the rules regulation for the World Trade Organization. The power in the committee structure where civil servant, where the member country are participating, the the country nominate their representative for the WTO organization. The representative discuss about the whole WTO process, procedures, rules and regulation. The decisions are taken on the basis of consensus. Then the primary consensus was that how to reduce the tariff for industrial output, how to negotiate for the agriculture trade, how to negotiate for the trade in cloth, the textiles and clothing, how to negotiate for the services sector export import, how to design the policy procedure for the intellectual property rights, how to reduce, how to tackle the dispute among different countries in the World Trade procedures. These are the background on which the World Trade Organization was established in 1995. If you see what World Trade Organization is doing, what are the system procedure, what are the requirements for the World Trade Organization, what they are doing over the years. If you see that WTO administration existing agreement, WTO is organization which administer the existing rules, regulation and agreement. WTO is a forum for negotiation of new trade rules and liberalization of further liberalization of world trade. It is a forum of negotiation. Member country participate in the negotiation process. They design the new trade policy, new rules, regulation, and also they design the rules, regulation for further liberalization of world trade process. WTO is a dispute settlement. It is organization of dispute settlement. Whenever there is a dispute between two countries or among countries, they establish the rules, regulation, the instrument to resolve their conflict. WTO is a regularly doing trade policy review. WTO they review the trade policy. They see how the world trade is functioning, where there is problems of world trade, and try to find out the challenges of world trade and try to negotiate for the further liberalization of world trade. WTO assists the technical assistance and capacity building program for developing country. WTO there is a separate department within the WTO. They provide technical assistance and capacity development for the developing country to improve their trade and trade revenue. WTO cooperate with the other global institutions. There are many global institutions are there like IMF, World Bank, International Development Agencies are there. They try to cooperate with the world institution for the smooth progress of the world economy and assisting the world different country for their trade and for their revenue sources. So, it is a body of administration, it is a body of framing a rules regulation, it is a body for framing resolving the dispute among the countries, it is a body of liberalizing the trade regulation, it is a body for assisting the developing country, it is a organization to cooperate with the world financial system, world financial organization for the smooth flow of world trade. So, what are the principles of WTO? When we discuss about WTO, what are the principles are there on which the WTO frame the guidelines? The WTO should secures non-discrimination through two sets of principles. It is a body of which never differentiate among country. It is based on the two principle of non-differentiation, not non-discriminating principle. The principle of non-discrimination here most favored nation MFN principle. It never differentiate among members countries. All members countries are equal. They should give equal importance to each other country for trade purpose. It is a body of national treatment NT principle, non-discrimination between national and foreign company. The organizational member country they should not differentiate between the foreign company and also a domestic company. They should provide same kind of treatment policy to all company which are maybe domestic, maybe foreign company. Then the principle of tariff reduction over the period, the world economy should transit to a minimum tariff in world trade system. there should not be any discrimination to the principle of FMN and NT, that is FMN mode favored nation national treatment. There should not be any discrimination. The protectionism should be reduced through the liberalization of world trade through negotiation process. Abuse of big trade power should not be there. Big trade country like the US or the European country that should not, or the other developed country should not abuse their position being a developed or being a big power, being possessors of natural resources. There should be rule based system for dispute resolution. The abuse of power should not be there in the World Trade Organization. So, these are the principle of non-discrimination, principle of most favored nation, principle of world tariff reduction, principle of reducing the protectionism in world trade, principle of not abusing the big trade power. These are the principles upon which the WTO or the World Trade Organization established or works. So, what are the area of negotiation? Over the year, the GATT, the trade on goods and services, goods was there in case of GATT. GATT was only for the purpose of establishing a smooth flow of goods only. So, however, WTO has a large umbrella that many areas of negotiation has been included in the WTO agreement. The agreement includes the industrial reduction of tariff, trade in services, that is a GDS, GATS, general agreement trade in services, general agreement on agriculture, general agreement on the intellectual properties, trade in intellectual properties rights, general agreement including which includes the what is called anti-dumping. There should not be an anti-dumping measures. There should be over the year reduction of subsidies. There should be over the year should be reduction of technical barriers in trade. There should be reduction of import licensing process, reduction of custom duty, valuations of companies in most favored nation status to each of the member country, national treatment to a foreign company. These are the area of negotiation which WTO has been considering over the year. They have already achieved in trade in services, trade in agriculture, trade in intellectual property, trade in investment. These are the some area negotiation has been done, and there has been further progress in liberalizing the world trade, and new area of negotiation have been included recently also. There are some discussions are there on agriculture, textile and clothing agreement. If you remember that prior to the WTO, India was a Indian economy particularly not getting the benefits of the textile and clothing sector. India has a zone of India is a zone where textile and clothing India was getting significant revenue in the form of export. However, the most important partner of world trade was USA. USA was putting India on the negative list of the textile and clothing, because India is a cheap producer of textile and clothing, and this cheap production process hampering the US economy. It was for the US thought. So, US were putting negative list in the for the Indian economy for the textile and clothing export, and India was suffering a lot because of that reason. After the WTO agreement, India got what is the status of most favored nation, and the MFN guideline help India in getting good exports to world economy, particularly USA. And in this way, Indian cloth and textile sector get the opportunity of US area, and they got good amount of export. However, there are many such kind of agriculture and textile and clothing sector, many such activities are there which has been discussed in World Trade Organization for the benefit of the developed and developing country. Over the years, through the process of negotiation, the tariff in agriculture protection has been reduced. The reduction of tariff significantly on an average 36% in the first round of negotiation. and there has been reduction, significant amount of tariff in agriculture export, agriculture import has been reduced. Market access guarantee, developing country got the market access guarantee in case of agriculture, textile and clothing. Import duty at least has been reduced to 3% domestic consumption, reduction in public subsidy in the form of export for agriculture production. These are the major area of dispute among developed and developing country. Developed country has been providing significant subsidy for the agriculture sector, which in that way, in which they have the power, they have the muscles, they have the money to do that, but the developing country were not there, not giving such significant subsidy to agriculture sector, and this way the agriculture export was not in favor of developing country. And this is a trade negotiations over the in the WTO. They discuss about the tariff in agriculture sector. They mentioned that tariff should be reduced over the subsidy should be reduced over the year, and that should be cotton subsidy should be in a phased manner, so as to get the benefit of the agriculture export for developing country side. Integration of half of the import into GATT system during the transition period, liberalization of remaining quota during the transition process. So, they have mentioned that there should be reduction in the agriculture subsidy, or agricultural subsidy for the subsistence agriculture should be there, agricultural subsidy for export region should not be there. This negotiation process still continuing in the WTO agreement, and WTO is a most difficult area is agriculture activity, agriculture subsidy. Developed country are not agree to this, because they know that they know that their agriculture is export oriented. However, developing country agriculture is subsistence oriented. There should be subsistence level of subsidy, for subsidy should be there for subsistence agriculture, not for the export oriented agriculture. The dispute still continuing in WTO agreement side. However, in case of textile, clothing, significant agreement has been done. The all country got the most favored nation status. They have also got the national treatment in textile and clothing. There has been significant development. This has been significantly helped the developing country, where developing countries significantly exporting their textile and cloth to the abroad, particularly US and European country, and getting significant revenue out of that. And India, one of the country, a developing country, has got the benefit out of this WTO agreement on textile and clothing sector. If you see the general agreements on tariff and services, this is the most difficult agreement world trade has achieved so far. The agreement related to national treatment, MFN, transparency, progressive levelization, dispute settlement, this has been done as per the negotiation in WTO. National schedule include liberalization commitment, accession in case of GATT principle. There has been some kind of accessions are there. Then successful negotiation has been done in case of telecom sector, financial sector, banking sector. These are the GATT services sector. Some kind of negotiation has been done, some kind of achievement has been achieved by the World Trade Organization. So, World Trade Organization has included the services sector as a part of the WTO negotiation process. The services sector include services for the telecom sector, financial sector, services for the investment region, services for the outsourcing process, and these are the things they have included in the negotiation process, and WTO has achieved the significantly in the negotiation process for the telecom sector and financial sector. And financial sector, one part is the banking sector, where WTO agreement has been achieved, and now the all countries are all member country of WTO, they are opening up their financial sector and banking sector for the world investment purpose, and this is a significant agreement they have achieved. However, there are many such agreements which are difficult in nature, had not been achieved over the year. They include the TRIPS and TRIM. The TRIPS side, trade related intellectual property side, this the copyright, trademark, patent, this has been significant negotiation achieved by the WTO over the year. And now the trade intellectual property, copyright, trademark, innovation proposed, innovation, R&D expenditure, which the many countries has been doing, they got the right on this. This include the pharmaceutical sector, many other sector where the negotiation process has provided some kind of benefit to the innovator for the expenditure for the country, for the company who has invented the process, and from the process patent to product patent we have migrated from the WTO side. And WTO has provided significant rights on the for the copyright, for the trademark, for the patent, and world trade. Though this is a difficult agreement and developing country has suffered because of this, and they have achieved it, and over the year this process has helped in the R&D expenditure in world trade system. Then another agreement on trade related investment measure, TRIMS, what is called TRIMS, trade related investment measure, the prohibiting for the investment rule, distort trade pattern, example local content export requirement. These are the some prohibition we have achieved in investment measure. The investment measure guard provide the protection to the investor and investor in the form that they should get the benefit of the investment. Similarly, we have achieved the principle of use of safeguard. Here the patent though provide right to the patent holder, at the same time it also provide some kind of right to the member country. If the member country see the patent is against their country, they can against their country particularly they can revoke the patent. They can use the pharmaceutical product suppose some kind of drugs for the mass consumption, they can convert the patent to the mass consumption side. Some kind of safeguard measure developing country have got, and pharmaceutical sector the negotiation process still continuing. However, it has provided some kind of safeguard to the developing country for the use of drug pharmaceutical product for the world trade for the mass consumption right for the government sector. However, private sector of the domestic developing country, they cannot get the right of pharmaceutical patent right. They have to purchase the right, they pay the royalty for this purpose. However, government as a mass consumption side have the right to evoke this patent, and they can circulate the medicine, circulate any kind of drug for the government sector consumption, for the mass consumption of public. And however, this the TRIPS and TRIM, though it is difficult on the part of developing country to accept this, they have accepted this as a principle of world trade, and this has enabled them to develop their own pharmaceutical sector for their own R&D expenditure, to get the right of innovation, to get the right of patent, to get the right of copyright, trademark, and these are the dispute side. This kind of negotiation has given by many kind of dispute, particular trademark side for the generalization of trademark, for the naturalization of trademark, and this has created many kind of dispute, and it has come and discussed in a WTO dispute settlement process. We will discuss separately the dispute resolution side. Dispute resolution side, how it has more tilted toward the developed country, and developed country has got the natural right on many kind of natural product, which is not good on the part of the world trade process. If you see, go to the other side, like what is the special about developing country that the weak competitiveness is there. Developed country industry are not competitive in nature, their industry are more self consumption or mass or the consumption for the home country. Their industry has not developed to get the competitiveness in the world export side. At the same time, the inefficient customs and trade administration and trade customs are not as per the guideline. The trades are being protected for the domestic consumption side. The trade is being used as a trade or tariffs is being used as a measures of get revenue, not for that not for to increase the efficiency and productivity of the trade. The fiscal measure in the form of tariff revenue important for the developing country. Developing country imposing quota, imposing tariff for get revenue out of this, not to increase the productivity of the export sector. So this is one of the drawbacks of the designing of trade policy for developing country side. After the WTO agreement, they have redesigned the trade policy, they have reduced the tariff over the year. Tariff has been reduced to significantly so as to get benefit of the world trade. At the same time, they got the benefit of what is called as a participant in the world trade in the form of getting technology, in the form of getting economics of scale, in the form of getting necessary revenue for import the capital goods so as to develop the economy. And at the same time, by liberalizing the tariff, liberalizing the quota regime, by redesigning the trade policy, they got the investment from abroad side for the development of their own country. The special in differential treatment for developed countries, the preferential market access. Developing country got the access by accepting the WTO agreement. The developing country got the preferential market access in developed country. This has increased their export revenue. Similarly, they have got the national treatment in the form of national treatment in developed country. So, they also get good amount of technology import, good amount of export earning because of their national treatment. The poorest country have got the benefit of the tariff. The poorest country has got the right from the WTO agreement to impose some kind of subsidy, some kind of tariff on as per the national requirement. They also got the benefit of technical support from the WTO, financial support from the WTO to redesign their trade policy, to redesign their export competitiveness, to also to increase the productivity efficiency of the export sector. WTO provides some kind of financial side and some kind of technical support to developing country. So, they also developing country also got some kind of safeguard in the form of liberal licensing policy. They got the safeguard for the trade, imposing some kind of trade barrier which is required for the national interest, particularly in the form of patent, in the form of copyright, in the form of trademark. Developing country has got the right to declare particular sector, particular commodity, particular patent as per mass consumption, despite being it patented by any other nation. So, some kind of benefit developed country got redesigning their trade basket, redesigning their trade policy, in redesigning or including slowly including themselves to the world trade system. So, some extent some benefit developing country have got. However, the special treatment they got in the form of improving the market access, that is a remarkable achievement on the part of developing country. They got the national treatment in developed country to improve their basket of export. They also got what is called liberal use of licensing policy. They also got the reduction of what is called the tariff. World tariff has improved their export and reduced their import also, that is a monetary import has reduced. They also got the benefit of the what is called immunity from the immunity in the form of patent. The patent has been redesigned for them as a safeguard measure has been included for the mass consumption side. So, developing country export side, import side, technical support side, financial support side, some extent they got the benefit out of the WTO agreement. If you see, many challenges are there in WTO. Though there is a dispute resolution in the WTO, the dispute resolution is not at par with the world trade agreement. So, the most important of these challenges are these challenges to expand the WTO further, challenges to include the many country including within the WTO agreement, challenges in the form of what is called reducing the discrimination in the WTO agreement. Challenges in the form of bilateral trade agreement. Many countries are there, among them they have bilateral agreement. This affects the principles of WTO. Many countries have formed what is called a club, what is called a trade partner, what is called a trade bloc. These are against of the WTO agreement. The European bloc, the NAFTA, SAFTA, these are the WTO, the block of world trade. These are against the principle of WTO. However, WTO are not in a position to convert the world economy into a global marketplace through the process of WTO negotiation process. These are the challenges the WTO has to accept by reducing the world trade, reducing the tariff, reducing the quota, increasing the trade pattern, trade system. So, the converting the world economy into a global marketplace. These are the some kind of greater challenges on the part of the WTO future negotiation process. However, many other challenges are there. Challenges issue relating to outsourcing. Outsourcing is a part of the WTO, part of the revenue process for the developing country. Outsourcing has become a issue in the WTO agreement side, WTO negotiation process. Many developed countries have imposed non-tariff barrier in the form of quota system, in the form of not giving what is called visa for the outsourcing side. So, outsourcing has become an issue in WTO agreement side. Labor issue, developing countries are surplus in labor, their labors are cheap. So, but how a developed country surplus in capital, the capital are cheap, that should be integration of these two factors of production. However, WTO itself provides some kind of dispute in aligning the two part of the world. One part is the labor cheap, another part is capital cheap into the process of negotiation. So, labor issues are there in case of for developing country, outsourcing issues are there for WTO side also. Non-tariff, the WTO is established to reduce the tariff and converting the world trade into a global marketplace. However, over the year after the WTO, it is not the tariff, it is the non-tariff barrier which has increased significantly. Non-tariff barrier in the form of climate, in the form of environment, in the form of cheap labor sources, in the form of child labor, in the form of subsidy has increased over the year. This has created non-tariff barrier, has created another way of what is called another system of protectionism in world trade. The WTO has not resolved this non-tariff barrier. There are many such kind of issues like the patent right. Some patent rights are being filed by the many developed country on natural resources, in the form of what is called generic system. This should not be there as a part of WTO agreement. Natural resources of world systems are same for all country. If they are on this, the developed countries should not get any kind of patent. So, similarly, agriculture subsidy for developing country and developed country, two different regions. Agriculture in a developing country is subsistence in nature. The subsidy is also subsistence in nature. Many developing countries are not exporting significantly agriculture product. However, developed countries exporting significant amount of agriculture product. The products the agriculture practices are for export, for market. For in case of developing country, agriculture practices for self-sustenance, self-consumption. So, subsidy, you have to differentiate this to subsidy. For WTO has not resolved the subsidy issue in agriculture. The agriculture subsidy should be reduced by developed country, not for the developing country. Developing country exports of agriculture subsidy is only for consumption purpose, not for the market orientation purpose. But in case of developed country, the agriculture subsidy is huge, it is not comparable to the developing country. However, the subsidy has not reduced over the year. The poorest country also not getting the benefit of the affordable medicine because of the intellectual property. Right of the pharmaceutical company, right of the pharmaceutical company has been endorsed by the WTO, but right of the developing country, poor country peoples has not been endorsed by the WTO agreement. The medicine or the invention for the consumption, for the mass consumption, for the is supposed to be the right of the every individual anywhere in the world, and WTO should endorse this right. However, WTO is for developed country companies which are developing this innovation. They have to get the benefit of the R&D expenditure. However, WTO should also give some same kind of treatment to poorest people which are there in many countries of the world. In affordable medicine or living standard is a right of the people which whoever it may be, whichever country he or she will be. So, it is a part of the WTO, should be part of the WTO agreement that mass consumption and should not be put for the as a part of the intellectual property or intellectual right. So, mass consumption any particular goods which is required for any individual should not be provided in the form of a patent right to a particular company. Similarly, these countries are able to maintain high import duty on and quota in certain product. So, despite the WTO agreements are there to reduce the import duty, import quota, many countries, the rich countries are creating some kind of quota system, some kind of tariff barrier for this kind of goods and services, blocking the import from the developing country. Similarly, this country non-tariff barriers has become such as anti-dumping measure, it has become a significant issues in WTO side. WTO has not been in a position to resolve the right of what is called anti-dumping, resolve the negotiation for the subsidy, resolve the negotiation for the non-tariff barrier, which has become a issue in world trade at present. So, there are many issues in WTO side, the issues of developing country has not been addressed properly. You have to go through, you have to understand the WTO agreement in a new perspective. The WTO has been established in 1995 as a part of reducing the world tariff, trade in tariffs. However, the non-tariff barrier has increased significantly over the year. The non-tariff barrier in the form of climate change, in the form of child labor, in the form of chemicals, in the form of environmental issue, in the form of human rights has become issues in WTO agreement section. WTO has not been in a position to reduce these non-tariff barriers and helping the developing country. Developed country through their muscles, through their significant trade relations in other country, significant world export have superimposed their rights in WTO dispute settlement process, and this has become a new form of world trade protectionism established by the WTO agreement, established by the developed country in developing in a WTO settlement process. A settlement process of WTO, what is a dispute settlement, is not at par with the developing country requirements. If you see the WTO settlement process, though member countries are there, all developed country members are there, but developed countries through their large scale export, large scale trade relations, they are creating different kind of situation where developing country, despite their right, they are not getting the benefits. The future negotiation of WTO should be in the light of what is called a new alignment of world forces. The world forces has changed different last 10 years. The 10 years of WTO, if you see the WTO came into established in 95, 96, and over the period they got slowly they migrated to the WTO requirement. The last 10 years the WTO, the negotiation process has changed, WTO settlement process has changed, WTO references has been changed, and WTO side the policy measure has changed, the WTO side the world system procedures has changed. The system procedure is now not on tariff, non-tariff sectors are more important nowadays. The WTO has not resolved this non-tariff barrier which has been created by the developed country. Developed country, they wanted the world resources, they wanted natural resources of developing country, however, without any kind of subsidy to developing country. So, in the form of integrating the world financial system, the WTO agreement should also include the banking sector rights of developing country. There should be reduction of what is called non-tariff barrier for the consumption of natural resources, for the consumption of patent for the human mass consumption. Similarly, in the WTO settlement process, the WTO countries should also include the developing country requirements in WTO settlement process. There should not be any kind of protectionism in WTO side, particularly for non-tariff barrier issues. So, the challenges of developing country, the challenges of WTO is now has changed as compared to the what it was there in early 90s. The here the challenges are not tariff, challenges are non-tariff in nature. Here challenges are not on providing patent to the companies. Here challenges are how to reduce the world, how to reduce the what is called the procedures, design the procedure for the mass consumption of pharmaceutical product. Here the issue is not on the what is called protection to developed country. Here issue to how to liberalize the trade for the developing country side. Here the issue is not on reduction of subsidy for agriculture sector. Here issue is how to open the agriculture sectors further, so that developing country which are on the subsistence level of consumption, they should get cheap agriculture product. Here the issue is not disputing creating a settlement or dispute process for helping the developed country. Here the issue is how to address the issues of requirements of developing country. So, WTO has to change from the earlier WTO 90s to the WTO 21st century, where the issues are different and negotiations should be different, and the process of designing the rules regulation for the world trade should be different. Here the issue is to reduce that not the reduction of tariff. Here issue is how to reduce the non-tariff barriers, how to increase the investment flow to developing country, how to provide more market access to developing country, how to provide cheap consumable good to developing country, how to reduce the poorest of the poor from the world economy, how to provide the what is called natural right on different commodity which are having health issue for developing country side. So, the issues has changed from the WTO for the WTO side, and WTO to redesign its policy for resolving the world trade and providing more smooth process to the world trade system and procedures. So, when you discuss about the world trade, you have to understand that the world trade has changed a lot over the year, and both developing country and developed country should be part of the WTO agreement, and the world trade should further smooth by negotiation and redesigning the world trade policy. When you want to discuss further, want to understand further, the references I have given here, two references. One is for the World Trade Organization website. If you go to the WTO website and see over the year what are the negotiation process. Negotiation here, three negotiation very important, what is called Uruguay round of negotiation, then second negotiation is the Tokyo round of negotiation, and also the negotiation over the year which has been taken place in the World Trade Permission process. And second reference is the Planning Commission website. If you go the Planning Commission, how the Planning Commission prepared the document for the World Trade negotiation process, and here you have to understand, you will be in a position to understand the India's requirement for the WTO, how India economy should change over the year as per the WTO agreement, and how India has put forward developing country perspective in WTO settlement process. And here I have designed model question for you. So, here I have to discuss what are the problems of GATT. Second question is describe the futures of WTO. Third question is how developing country have benefited from WTO side. Then fourth question is on describe the various challenges of WTO. First question, what are the problems of GATT? So, as I discussed in the earlier session, GATT is General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. It was established 1948. The primary principle of GATT was to establish a smooth world trade process. Here trades and goods were there, agriculture, services, these were not part of that trade. and the primary functions of GATT is to reduce the tariff barriers. The tariff barrier during the establishment of GATT, that time it was around 300%, and over the period of negotiation the GATT has reduced the tariff barrier to something around 30%. And the problem of GATT was the world trade since 1940 had changed a lot. It is not the goods only trade was taking place, nor it was services also a part of the trade. Factor of production, particularly capital and labor, has become highly migratory in nature, and the GATT was not in a position to discuss about the what is called trade in agriculture, trade in natural resources, trade in investment, trade in services. These are not the part of the GATT agreement. So, and also at the same time the tariff has reduced, non-tariff barriers have increased significantly. So, they wanted that WTO should the GATT could not discuss about the non-tariff barriers. So, to address the issue of agriculture, address the issue of services sector export import, address the issue of investment, address the issue of property right, patent right, copyright, trade right, the WTO these are the problematic aspect of WTO, and WTO could not discuss all these things. So, there is a new requirement for negotiation process, and this new requirement leads to abolition of GATT and establishment of WTO. So, second question was describe the features of WTO. WTO, as I mentioned earlier, WTO came from the GATTs. The GATT was the earlier part of earlier establishment of tariff negotiation. WTO established for the as the umbrella site of GATT. WTO primary feature of WTO is the enlargement of the world trade process. In the WTO goods, services, patent, trademarks, copyright, these are the trade issues were part of the WTO agreement side. WTO provide all member country equal partner. WTO provide a dispute resolution for a world trade. WTO provide a negotiation platform for the developing and developed country to discuss the requirement for the world trade. WTO provide a principle for the world trade, the principle of most favored nation, the principle of national entity, the principle of not discriminating among developing country and developed country, between foreign company and domestic company. WTO also provide some kind of benefit to developing country in the form of technical help, in the form of financial help. WTO also provide technical help to developing country for redesigning the basket of export import. WTO provide principle of negotiation for dispute resolution. These are the features of WTO. We will discuss more on WTO features. Okay. Third is question is how developing countries have benefited from WTO. Developing country, as I mentioned, that part of the WTO agreement. Almost all developing country are the part of the WTO agreement. Developing country got the benefit in the form of what is called the most favored nation status. So, the most favored nation status allow them to in the developed country market access for them increase. Most favored nation status provide them what is called a benefit to get technical import, technology imports, increase the export basket, reduction of tariff. So, their primary export in the form of textile, cloth, natural resources in the form of mining ore, they have increased that. They also got the benefit of world financial system. There as a financial part agreement in the WTO, developing country get the access of world market. They also get the access in a developed country large market to increase the export basket. As a part of the member country of WTO, developing country also got the benefit of technical support to redesign the export import basket. They also got the financial support for redesigning their export sector. They also got the financial support to increase the competitiveness for their own domestic industry, domestic company. Also they got the benefit of cheap export, cheap import of technology. They also got the benefit of copyrights and trademark rights for mass consumption side. These are the part of the developing country got the benefit from the WTO side. Describe the various challenges of WTO. Here we have discussed many challenges of WTO. WTO side, the challenges, primary challenges is how to dispute resolution side, non-tariff barrier reduction side, the how to negotiate for the agriculture subsidy side, how to negotiate for the outsourcing issue, how to negotiate for the labor issue, climate change, environmental side, how to negotiate for the redesigning the World Trade Organization for dispute resolution, how to negotiate for the investment side, investment measures side, how to negotiate further negotiation of the world trade from the tariff reduction to the non-tariff reduction side, how to tackle the issue of what is called bilateral trade, a trade bloc, these are the against the WTO agreement, and also how to redesigning the principles of negotiation of WTO, where developing country or a developed country which have large export, large trade power, they should not influence the WTO agreement. Also WTO agreement, WTO side, the challenges are in the form of what is called the issue of cheap labor forces, human rights side, factor of migration, factor of production migration side. These are the some challenges in developing country, and in the form of WTO agreement. WTO agreement has become a last 5, 6, 7 years as a deadlock, that is not further negotiation is taking place. The dispute has not been resolved so far. The dispute has been prolonged over the year. The developing country has lost the WTO agreement side because their trade size has not improved significantly after the WTO agreement. The developed country has promised to enlarge the market, give the market access to developing country. They have not done so far, because they have reduced the tariff, but increased the non-tariff barrier for developing country, which has blocked the developing country in the for export import side. So, these are the issue, the developed country and developing country together should negotiate and accept the challenges of WTO agreement side. WTO has to change from the tariff barrier of negotiation to non-tariff barrier of negotiation, a platform for the further negotiation for the reduction of non-tariff barrier, and further reforming the world trade for the benefit of the human being, not for developed or developing country, human being of across the world. Thank you.